A very warm good afternoon to all of you. I am Sakshi, welcoming you all on behalf of NetZero Alliance and First View Group to our exclusive webinar on India's roadmap to net zero economy. I take the pleasure of thanking our panel members here for extending their time and support to help organize this event, and a very special mention to our sponsoring partner, Eki Energy Services, for being our crusader here. I would now request my team to play the commercial video for Eki Energy. Thank you so much, team, for playing that. Here, I would like to make a small announcement. Our attendees can post their questions in the Q&A box, and our speaker will answer those questions at the end of the panel discussion. As we are aware, in order to achieve the net zero goal, the country is actively pursuing decarbonization in a few key strategic sectors. Those sectors are electricity, transport, urbanization, industry, carbon dioxide removal, forest, among others. Here today in our proposed virtual webinar, different stakeholders of India's journey to carbon neutral economy goal will give you an insight into the recent trends of decarbonization with different key strategic sectors ranging from power to hard to abate industrial sectors. In addition to that, we also have a separate Q&A session for a discussion on the recent trends and challenges related to the major initiatives taken by India to achieve its net zero goal by 2070. May I introduce Mr. Samrat Sen Gupta from Eki Energy Services, who will be leading the session today. Welcome on stage, sir.
Thank you, Shakshi, for handing over the stage to me. I like to welcome all of all the people who are following us and our esteemed panelists. I'm privileged to moderate this session, which is close to my passion and profession too, and that too with a very learned leaders from industries who are actively going to contribute into this discussion and who have a substantial exposure and experience in India's decarbonization journey till now. To set the context, I like to take couple of minutes to highlight few facts. Um, you all are aware the global population has crossed 8 billion, and the country India, has become the most populous country. Almost 18% of the global population are our citizen. And also, there is another fact, though we are talking about net zero, the latest report shows that the carbon budget relates to temperature arrest within 1.5 degrees centigrade are nearly part of diminishing factor. Maybe in next few years we are going to exhaust it on the present rate of development. With the advent of where from it all started, that during the uh, initial years of mid 19th centuries, with the advent of industrial revolution in the north, we have embraced a development paradigm primarily driven by technologies for extracting concentrated source of energy, which is fossil, to an economic model which encourages consumption. The development paradigm has forgot to recognize the economic valuation of the ecosystem services, including the energy sources which the world has taken millions of years to develop through its geological process, which lead to unprecedented exploitation beyond the buffering capacity of the Mother Earth. This leads to various disparities, distress, and irrevocable harm to very nature, and is basically meant supporting a thriving life on this planet. Anthropogenic global warming, though, have been identified in its bits and pieces at various scientific research way back more than 100 years. In 1896, I can refer to, but the world at a world level, it has got recognized during 1972 Art Summit at Stockholm. But though the progress on UN-led multilateral institutionalization of this top particular aspects, the translating it in real action on ground has taken more than 4 decades when it is getting importance, and particularly on the verge of mainstreaming in financial analytics towards investment. I take it as a milestone. This has considerably proven in recent time that the mainstreaming of sustainability opens up substantial opportunity for a country like India to channelize its growth story towards an inclusive, sustainable, and green development pathway. And last couple of decades, the country has slowly but steadily taken leadership in global action towards decarbonization. This is just the beginning. We have a long way ahead, and to discuss the various avenues for transition, we have a very learned and experienced panel with us. I like to introduce them to our audience. We have Dr. Ram Babu, who is CSO and advisor Greenco Group. I personally know him from the very beginning of my journey in this particular thematics in my profession. He is well known, and he has a long story into the carbon market as a leader from earlier days, from PwC to Cantor CO2, and now with Greenco. Dr. Rambabu, very welcome to our session today. We have Mr. Panigrahi, Vice President, Same Crop India. Mr. Panigrahi have more than 2.5 decades of experience in working in energy sector, and his expertise lies in ESG risks, enterprise risk management, internal financial control, governance risks, and sustainability and climate risks also. Currently, he is heading the risk management of Shem Crop India and with key interest in sustainability and climate risks and energy transition. Very welcome, Mr. Panigrahi.
Thank you, Samrat.
We have Dr. Karan Sadhwani, lead ESG or carbon advisor, AWT Energy. Dr. Karan is a versatile civil and environmental engineer over 1.5 decades of experience, and uh, he has also masters in and as well as doctorate in environmental engineering. He is currently leading the carbon credit division of AWT Energy, where he responsible for the issuance and commercialization of the credits. We have welcome Dr. Karan to this discussion.
Thank you, sir.
We have Dr. Abhilash Raghavan, Group Vice President of ESG Acme Group. Dr. Abhilash is a certified sustainability reporting practitioner, a certified safety professional, and a chartered health safety practitioner. He also holds doctorates in environmental health and sustainability, and over past 2 decades he has acquired experience in EHS, ESG, and sustainability and environmental management. Welcome, Dr. Abhilash.
Thank you, Mr. Samrat. Thank you for the warm, kind words.
Yeah, we have also Dr. Ajay Kumar, Deputy General Manager and Group Head Green Hydrogen from NTPC. Uh, Mr. Ajay, a clean and green energy enthusiastic with near about 2 decades of experience in NTPC Limited in green hydrogen, biomass co-firing, combustion, alternative fuel and application, waste to energy, gasification, and process efficiency improvement. He is actively involved in various national missions like National Biomass Mission, National Hydrogen Mission. Welcome, Mr. Ajay Kumar.
Thank you so much, Dr. Samrat.
Yeah. Considering I have got a information that Dr. Rambabu is pressed on time, so I like to start with Dr. Rambabu. Rambabu, for your initial thought on the subject perspective, today's discussion on India's journey towards net zero and neutrality, and how successful we are in capitalizing our efforts towards it.
Thanks, Samrat.
Yeah.
So, is my voice okay? Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Please. It is
Okay,
loud and
thank
clear.
you. Yeah. Thanks for conceding to my request to place me in the initial part of the session. Since I have to leave by 3:45, so I made this request.
Our
Right.
pleasure, sir.
So,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay. Coming to this particular question that you raised regarding the net zero transition globally and also in India, uh, few points I want to make.
Sure.
Uh, the the transition to net zero is going to be qualitatively different from any other reducing emissions path.
Yeah.
Early days, last many decades actually, we have a mindset of reducing emissions, and it was very nice. It was earlier experimentation, and in that mindset and thought process, possibly we didn't do as in an accelerated fashion as is required by the way the the weather is changing or climate is changing. So finally, we came to a situation where we need to get to net zero within the next 3 decades. Maybe some countries and some sectors will do it later, but some others do it earlier. And there will be a significant amount of removals technology. And all put together, globally, we should be able to achieve net zero either by 2050 or well before 2050. I think this transition, mindset wise, is going to be significantly different from the previous transition, because any new technology that we adopt, okay, that is going to have a certain lifetime. And within that lifetime, if that technology has become obsolescence and you need to actually phase out the technology for net zero, it is going to be a significant challenge. For example, I will tell you in the steel sector, okay, if I were to do shift away, reduce my emissions to face the CBAM, okay, I would use a different or more efficient BF-BOF route, blast furnace and basic oxygen furnace route. But ultimately, that route is not suitable for net zero. Hence, even if I adopt a new technology, it needs to be discarded in its way to net zero. So these are going to be the challenges as far as the mindset of net zero versus mindset of emission reductions, right? And as far as India is concerned, uh, and even world, I am finding this time the business and much of the society is seeing net zero as an opportunity, either to as an opportunity to deploy capital or as an opportunity to iron out some of the geographical advantages and disadvantages the globe ever had. For example, for India, it was always an energy disadvantage for last many decades. And with the net zero transition, energy transition, it is going to be energy advantage for the coming decades.
Yeah.
So there are many other countries also are seeing a significant amount of advantage. Hence, net zero is a very clear possibility, and people are pursuing and chasing. And it is also inevitable and it is necessary. Unless otherwise it is done, you will have a significant catastrophic global climate change, right? And very clearly, to get to net zero, the path is simply electrify, energy efficiency. Whatever you have electrified, make it re-electrify. I mean, RE, make that electrification as RE, and go for energy and material decarbonization. That is the hydrogen and many other hydrogen-based fuels coming out of biological origin or electrical origin. Okay, all the fuels. Then, of course, you have circular economy, and finally the removals. The removals could be nature based, or removals could be geological based, or removal could be engineering. Okay,
Yeah.
engineering based. So the removals will offer at least a 20% of the solution, in my opinion. And the circular economy globally and in India also will offer another 20%. And the remaining 60% has to be addressed by the energy decarbonization and material decarbonization. So that is the path. Uh, some of the, I don't know, you gave the time for me for the initial comments, or undertake all the questions that you have raised, ask the speakers to address.
Sir, you
So
can
what is
carry
it?
on considering you will be not with us
Yeah,
for the full
that's right.
session.
That's right.
You can complete your
I will
all
take
comments.
another few minutes. Okay,
Sure, sir.
few
Sure.
more minutes I'll take and
Yeah.
then close it.
Mm.
I think India is very clearly prepared for net zero, and there seem to be a clear understanding that this journey towards net zero is an economic opportunity, and it is actually giving us energy independence, and it is giving us made in India, make in India, and many Atmanirbhar. And there are many things that we always wanted to do as an economic entity, as a political entity. We see that net zero is contributing significantly towards a good part of our ambitions,
Yeah.
right? And the one that I wanted to cover for you is that India has NDCs, and to comply with the NDCs, or to meet the NDCs, or to achieve the NDCs, India is establishing its domestic market, and very strategically it has done so. But more strategically, actually, it clearly sees that beyond the NDCs, beyond 2030, I also need to take up the net zero path. Okay, and there are certain technologies, there are certain measures that will enable me to get there to net zero journey. And that is why it has identified 13 categories of projects under Article 6.2 of the Paris Agreement,
Yeah.
and said that these are the guys who have a significant viability gap. This
Mhm.
viability gap cannot be met by domestic carbon price.
Mhm.
This viability gap can only be met by international carbon price.
Yeah.
Hence, these are the projects which will contribute also beyond NDCs, and they
Mhm.
will actually take us towards the net zero beyond NDCs. Hence, we need to support these 13 sectors of the projects,
Mhm.
okay, for generating internationally transferred mitigation outcomes. And they have identified those, and they have gone forward. So we seem to have a very excellent market mechanism today. The market mechanism is that to meet the country's NDCs, you have domestic carbon market,
Mhm.
and to meet the country's path forward towards net zero, you have the Article 6.2 and Article 6.4.
Mhm.
And of course, going beyond, as the I think this COP 28,
Mhm.
uh, we will have global stock taking, GST. I think
Yeah.
GST discussions have already started, and they are going
Started.
on in Bonn.
Mhm.
Okay, and soon after the global stock taking, every country will be asked to go and revise the NDCs,
Mhm.
and it is pointing in a direction that the NDCs have to become more and more tighter and
Okay.
stringent and all that sort of thing. And this is going to happen even beyond 2030. On a
Mhm.
continuous basis, we will be calibrating the targets of ours. But till 2030, I very clearly see the domestic market will operate to meet the 2030 NDCs, and the
Mhm.
international carbon market, or the ITMOS or Article 6.2, will
Mhm.
operate to generate the, or they bridge the viability gap by generating extra revenues by sales of ITMOS in the
Mhm.
international markets, to take the path forward for
Mhm.
renewable energy with storage. Storage could be pumped hydro storage or a battery storage or anything like that. And then the green hydrogen, green ammonia, and all other relevant green fuels, and
Mhm.
some technologies like solar thermal, and ocean based technologies, and etc., etc.
Yeah.
So the another question definitely that you asked me is the nature-based solutions. Yes,
Mhm.
nature-based solutions are extremely important in the whole process. I put the nature-based solutions into green fuel category mostly. Beyond green fuel category, the nature-based solutions will also engineering solutions will actually aid removals, whereas nature-based solutions will give rise to more towards the zero carbon fuels, because they create a renewable cycle of the biomass, okay, by
Mhm.
which you can have a zero carbon fuels. So the nature-based solutions contributing towards the zero carbon fuels, and the engineered solutions contributing towards the removals, okay, we clearly see a future. Of course, there is a continuous cost competition amongst all of them.
Mhm.
Some technologies costs are increasing, some technologies costs are decreasing, okay, on a continuous basis. So with all that, I am, this time at least, I am very very hopeful. I spent almost uh, for everybody's this thing that my sustainability journey is something like a 35 years old,
Yeah.
and for the first time I am seeing a clear cut optimism in the sustainability, and clear cut integration of opportunity,
Yeah.
economic opportunity, and environmental opportunity for the first time. And I'm
Mhm.
very hopeful that this net zero path, and especially for India, it will be a great opportunity. Thank you, Samrat. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rambabu. To end the points with a very hopeful note, yes, sustainability is now mainstreamed almost in our all development pathway. So I like to now request Dr. Raghavan to make his initial comments, as well as in the process, if you can address that how in the process of towards sustainability, net zero or decarbonization, the country could better thrive on material security as well as supply chain sustainability, because in the initial phase of our um, decarbonization pathway, we have not able to address those issues to the full extent of its potential. Like renewables, we have supply chain dependency across the border. Like we are presently going on storage technologies, which has neither material sustainability within the country or the manufacturing sustainability. So being such a huge country with a growing economy, which is the fastest growing economy of the world, it poses a huge importance to even to the business sector to put in R&D of technologies which are addressing the country's energy and security issues. So, and Dr. Raghavan, your stage with you.
Uh, yeah, thank you so much, Samrat, for giving this opportunity. And to me, I also feel quite optimistic in terms of the target which is there as a country
Mhm,
to achieve the net zero of 2070.
mhm.
So, considering the fact that we are primarily dependent on the coal-based or the fossil fuel-based energy sources at the moment. So, if you compare with the Europe, which is at 2050, and the Middle East countries such as Saudi, which is a prominent oil
Yeah.
and gas dependent economy, right? So, their target is 2060. So, looking at all those numbers and our ambitious target of 2070, so this looks very promising.
Mhm,
And to add on that, the kind of support and the kind of focus the government is putting across. So I can give you some kind of indication, such as the recent budget, the finance budget, wherein almost around 35,000 was earmarked for the capital investment.
mhm.
35,000 crore money was, earmarked as a part of the capital priority investment in the sector. Okay, so this translates to, quite a kind of an investment into the renewable sector, and this will definitely, act as a catalyst, no, for our net zero and the long-term energy transition pathway.
Mhm.
And also, there is a fact that so recently, a couple of days before, so the MNRA, they have allotted almost around, I would say around 455 crores of money as to the Ministry of Steels. So
Mhm.
Ministry of Steel, as everyone knows, so this is a very, important sector. It's a hard to abate
That-
sector, right?
Yeah.
Because of the pollution load and all those stuff.
Mhm,
So 455 crore is allotted from the total corpus, no, of
mhm,
1466 crore from the
mhm,
national hydrogen policy. Okay, so
mhm.
this again indicate the direction. Around 30% is already earmarked to the steel industry, which is a very, critical kind of decarbonization industry, right? So these all is giving clear and the right direction towards our, intention. Okay, so having said that, there are still something which we have to act further, which I would say like the availability of technology and availability of resources. So when we talk about, so now green hydrogen is the buzz of the town, right? So everyone talks about green hydrogen. Okay, and we have a target of 5 million metric ton production by 2030 also, right?
Mhm.
So how do we equip that? How do we have that kind of infrastructure for that? And for making a green hydrogen project, so you need a lot of renewable support, and you have massive land acquisition. So, say for example, for a small project itself, we have to acquire 1,000 acres of land for
Yeah.
setting up solar plants and all those kind of a thing. So this is another bottleneck. And also when we talk specifically about the green hydrogen industry, the electrolyzer availability. So this is something, and currently we depend mostly on the Chinese make electrolyzers, right? So we have to have an indigenous kind of capability enhancement so that we will be able to meet the demand within the country. And also on a long run, the production cost, the hydrogen production cost. So that also will determine the viability of this as an alternate fuel, right? And if you look at the kind of focus from the other countries, such as, say, for example, US, the United States, their green or their hydrogen policy, so that clearly says that in another 1 decade, so their target is to have $1 for 1 kg of hydrogen against the current rate of around $5. Okay, so it's a massive reduction of around 80%. So I think we have to have our policies and the framework also aligned towards this direction so that we will be able to achieve these targets, the deadlines, in terms of 2030, 500 gigawatt of renewable energy production. So all those kind of things we can achieve provided we have a strong framework also coming into place. So I think these are some of the things which I can say as an initial thing, as an initial comments. So
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, and Dr. Raghavan. I and now like to approach Mr. Panigrahi for your initial comment, as well as coming from the background of financial sector risks assessment. During my 2.5 decades of career, this is the first time I am for last couple of years I am seeing that financial sector in their analytics is now internalizing the climate and environment in mainstream risk analysis. That's a huge milestone for me, because you financial sector drive the investment, drive the businesses. Though we have seen that few oil companies, international oil companies, used to do publications in the terms of renewables for last many decades, but their less than 1% capital is actually deployed for renewable, like Shell or any other party. So now the scenario is going to change. On that aspects, how hopeful you are? Yes, sir. The floor is.
Thanks, thanks, sir. So, if you see now, last year, India communicated that the long-term goal is to achieve net zero by 2070.
Yes.
So, at the same time, also India, so in over the last year or so, we have also we are communicating to the world that we want to be a developed economy by 2047.
Yes.
Now, now we have to see how to identify the co-benefits of this development goal and the sustainability goal. Because so to put things in perspective, even now, as a country, our per capita electricity consumption, per capita primary energy consumption is not only well below, say, developed country. It is even well below many of the developing BRICS countries like China, Brazil, South Africa. So, so while improving the economic condition of our people, the social condition of the people, definitely it will definitely increase some increase in electricity consumption and energy consumption. Now, so now, so how to identify the cleaner development pathways so that we can achieve both sustainability goal as well as our development goals. So one way is to identify the synergies between the two goals. So where and leverage those synergies to drive our journey towards sustainability. For example, so for India, so India is a country which imports most of its crude oil. So, and import of crude oil also has its economic consequence. So whenever the oil prices go up, our import bill goes up, our balance of payment goes up, our inflation goes up. So and similarly, also, if you see many reports published about the most polluted cities in the world, major chunk of them are in India only. Now, if you combine these two imperatives that they need to, if you identify these two imperatives to reduce our crude oil import bill and reduce our pollution level emission in our cities, so that makes strong case for electric mobility. Now we have to find innovative ways uh, how to price these external costs of pollution, dependence on so both strategic point of view and also economic point of view, that how to factor in those external costs into our policy making as well as our investment decision to make a case for faster proliferation of electric mobility in our cities and gradually all over the country. Similarly, when we say that so by 2030, as per our NDC, we want to have 50% of our cumulative installed capacity from renewable sources, rather non-fossil sources. If you see, there is also another goal we have, that by 2030 we want to increase our export $2 trillion. 1 trillion for merchandise export and 1 trillion for services. Now we can also marry these two goals, that because if you want to going forward, if you want to export to the world, our products and services have to be green. And so that can be used as a leverage to drive the proliferation of renewable power faster. And so far as the financing is concerned, right now, though in renewable sector, for the ground mounted solar projects and the onshore wind projects, there has been flow of foreign equity and debt, definitely, primarily because these technologies have matured, and also the centrally bid projects, they have de-risked some of the contractual and project related risks. But now if we want to, but now we have to go to the next level, because the pace at which capital is flowing into this sector, that is not adequate. So to accelerate that pace, so we have to find out, so the policymaker, they have to find out ways how to ensure low cost financing for also on those areas where the technology is not yet proven. For example, green hydrogen, green ammonia. So the direction is not yet clear. The picture is still hazy. Similarly, in Rayon also, what shape the offshore wind will take, definitely at this point of time, the risk perception is higher. So we have to. Now here the policymaker, the multilateral agencies, and investors, they have to come forward with finding out innovative ways how to de-risk, rather improve the credit quality of these investments in the way of insurance, or in the ways of guarantees, or risk pooling. So that a particular investor does not take all the risks. So how to pool capital, pool risk, and guide that investment, channelize that investment to some of the high risk areas of sustainability or renewable energy. So I think these are the areas we have to. Also, another point is that so one of the source of financing for is the green credit or carbon credits. But the point is that there is a lot of regulatory uncertainties around carbon credit. So the carbon credit market, the global market, is highly fragmented. There are different markets. So there are now effort to standardize. So we are far from that. So unless there is more certainty about the project, about those green credit market, And because the investments are happening upfront for the very long duration, if there is no certainty about the offtake and the price, some certainty about the indication about the likely prices, those cannot be substantially factored into investment decisions. So we need more push in that area as well. So these are my initial comments.
Thank you, Mr. Panigrai. Thank you for highlighting the carbon market or carbon price in the or so-called green finance and its role in de-risking the high risks new technology, novel technology, or distributed technologies which are required to be pushed very quickly. I like to, on that aspects, I like to request Dr. Karan to kindly take the stage along with his initial comments as well as highlighting from his experience as a player on the carbon market what stage you are why there are so much of uncertainties into the market both from the reliability and transparency issue of the credit as well as different fragments which Mr. Panigrahi has rightly highlighted how to make or what will be the path ahead to standardize it or how Indian carbon market may help in first the Indian project developer as well as make a standardized option available for international investors to take through carbon route to invest in green technologies.
Thank you, Samrat sir. Very good afternoon to all the panelists, the audience. Uh, I would like to first start by, I mean, a lot has been said about net zero.
Mhm,
It gives me little room to expand on it. I'm very sure that by 2017 we'll be reaching the net zero targets for India.
mhm,
But there is some reality that we need to look upon. India's NDC says that we have to create a carbon sink of around 2.5 to 3 billion tons, but by 2030. But since 2015, if you see, we have been able to create only a sink of only 703 million tons, which is approximately 120 million tons every year. So what does this say? That we are going to miss our 2030 targets for creating those carbon sinks. Now, again, creating these carbon sinks represent a very good opportunity for project developers to get into the carbon credit territory and
mhm,
bring with them nature-based solutions in order to so that all this carbon can be locked away into the land, into the plants. Uh, Again, the our if you look at our renewable targets, we have a huge renewable target in front of us. By 2030, we have a target of 500 megawatts of renewable power that we are planning to bring into India. Uh,
mhm,
the main problem that I see associated with this is of storage. We cannot produce electricity by wind if there's low wind season. During the night, the solar panels cannot produce the electricity, and these two are the most proven renewable sources that we have. With other sources of renewable energy that are coming, green hydrogen and ammonia, I think we are still in the nascent stage, and it will take us around. It will take us some time before we have a stable platform and investors are ready to put in the money and it is adopted on a large scale. But
mhm,
for the coming years, I feel that uh, we are going to be dependent on wind and solar. As we know, Indian government has pushed for 280 gigawatts of solar power and 140 gigawatts of wind power.
mhm,
So hydrogen and ammonia and other renewable energy, these technologies, it will be a little time before they take off. In the meanwhile, we have to make do with these technologies. So we are already coming up with hybrid technologies, where we have hybrid solar and wind projects as of now.
mhm,
So we'll have to start thinking about integrating these hydrogen plants with solar plants with wind plants, so that during periods of low power generation, these alternate technologies can kick in and they can complete the requirements of the grid, we need to have a stable grid. In case one of the technologies fail, we know what kind of effect can have on the grid. So I see battery storage technologies developing faster as compared to other renewables, because that will be the most important part which will complete our renewable, our power security issues. Apart from this, the problem that we are facing right now is, as far as carbon credits is concerned, is that there are a lot of different registries, there are different methodologies through which a carbon credit is being issued right now. So we have got the one in the compliance market, which is the CDM. Then we have got uh, gold standard. We have got VCS. We have got GCC. And then again, there are other small players who are trying to make a name for themselves. Trying to come up with different methodologies, trying to make different registries. And then apart from that, for nature-based solution, there are different registries. Again, for different locations, they have got different countries have got their own registries in which you have to get your project registered, and then the carbon credits are issued. So again, with just the same problem that ESG is facing, the carbon market is facing the same problem, that is of standardization. The problem this creates is for the end user, for the end buyer, this creates a problem where they're unable to make a decision. Okay, a CDM credit, say it is of renewable, they're getting it for zero point 0.5 USD. The same credit from VCS they're getting for $1.5, and then the same credit from GS they're getting for $2.5. So it is creating a confusion in the minds of the end buyer, that how exactly do I rank these three credits, and which one should I buy? And then again, there are people who are putting questions on the credibility of the credit, just as we have seen with the Guardian report on red plus carbon credits. Uh, so what I mean to say is that at the end of the day, the need of the hour is standardization, so that the end buyer, in their mind, the concept is very clear that whatever one carbon credit I am buying, it has reduced 1,000 kgs of carbon dioxide in the market, and whatever I am buying, it has been gone through a very rigorous process. It has been audited, and at the end of the day, the product I'm getting, my company's reputation is not being harmed because of it. So these are the things that I feel that carbon markets have to face, and as the Indian market has to face the, as I talked about the carbon thing. So I hope that solutions do come up for these issues, and we are trying to come up with the solution for these issues, and I hope we are successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karan, for your comments. I like to now request Mr. Ajay to come on the stage and give his initial comment, and particularly from as a point of view of you are representing NTPC, though branded as one of the dirty player because you emits a lot of it, but you are the backbone of our power sector. How, as a in mainly into the business of thermal power generation or power generation, if I can label it such a, what is the plan to move ahead? Because still by mid of this century, 50% power will be definitely, in terms of million unit terms, will be coming from thermal only, and rest 50% will be coming from non-fossil sources. With that assumption, what is the way ahead for your company, your organization, as well as how you think Indian decarbonization journey, what are the fine tuning we should do to make it more impactful, not only on the environmental criteria, but also the overall social development criteria. Yeah, I think I have lost him. So, yeah, he's back.
Not yet. He seems to have dropped out. We'll just move on to the next panel person.
Yeah. Again, getting back to Dr. Raghavan, just few aspects of the which is not related to large industries, but much more related to our social equity in this development. The whole process of decarbonization, we are heavily tilted towards large technologies, green hydrogen, electrification of end use, or BSS, or renewable, particularly the backbone of all this technology. The energy supply happens from renewable. It is green hydrogen, end use electrification, or anything. But renewable, for last almost 3 decades we have done very good, but the everything happens on a centralized development model. But renewable technology has a very good potential for democratization of energy production at a modular, at a where it is required kind of thing. That decentralized development, though there are numerous government schemes, has not been picked up the way it should be. If you see India's initial target of 175 gigawatt of solar, 40 gigawatt was solar rooftop, and we are hardly achieved 10 gigawatt by end of last calendar year. So what has gone wrong, and how we can come back again that decentralized sector which has lot of co-benefit associated with it, in terms of job creation, stopping migration from rural to urban, and uh, the micro enterprise development in the rural. On that aspect, what we can do better in that, that's the query.
I think it's a plenitude of questions. So I think I'll try to cover as much as possible. And
Yeah, it's up to you, sir.
yeah. So since we talked about the renewable thing, so one of the challenge what we have seen in the sector. I mean, see, though we have a lot of support from the government, be it from the central or from the state. So, I mean, there are certain things which are not, I mean, coming as expected. So, though we have the single window systems and all established for the clearance and all those such things, right? But
Mhm.
at times we see, I mean, kind of gaps in this kind of things, and that actually make the projects, no, I mean, getting delayed and all such kind of things.
Mhm.
And also, another important point is on the investment as such.
Mhm.
So if you look at the investment in the renewable sector, so we as a company, so we have got a lot of association with the foreign funding agencies, be it from the Norway or from the Europe or anything of that sort. So we actually get such kind of investments, and you will appreciate also as part of the UN commitment. So there is a sizable amount of money earmarked for the developing countries, especially
Mhm.
on the landscape, no, on the renewable energy funding.
Mhm.
Okay, so there is enormous money which is there, and if you take a count of the numbers, so from last 2 3 years data, so I can say that there is at least 30% year on year increase in the allocation. And
Yeah.
currently, the last year, the total allocation is coming in the tune of 1.3 trillion
Mhm.
US dollar. So this is a sizable amount. And so in 2020, during the peak COVID period and all, so that amount was somewhere in 850 billion USD.
Mhm.
But the challenge here is that this kind of money is not getting tapped properly.
Mhm.
And if you look at the overall, I mean, the distribution, so majority of the, I mean, tickets are from the East Asia, and as well as I mean, primarily the Asian countries.
Mhm.
Okay, and the Africa and all, they do, but their participation in these kind of programs are very minimum, because you will have a lot of stringent guidelines derived from the World Bank and the international finance IFC standards and etc. So many countries or many organizations will find it very hard to comply with those requirements, be it on the environmental side or be it from the social side, human rights. So there are a lot of aspects coming there.
Mhm.
So my point here is that to tap and to make better use of such kind of resources and the fundings. So I think we as a country we have to equip ourselves. I mean, there should be some kind of mechanism which will help, the industries to tap this kind of opportunity, and this can be, of course, driven by associations, like CAA or FICCI. So
Mhm.
they play a very major role in educating and making people aware about these kind of markets. So
Mhm.
this is one thing. And secondly, on the renewable sector,
Mhm.
so see, we talk about a lot of new projects, installations, etc. But what is happening after the end of life? See, because normally,
Great point.
typically a solar plant has an end of life of 20 to 25 years.
Mhm.
So what is that we are going to do after the 25-year in terms of these panels? Because it's primarily an electronic waste, right?
Mhm.
And how are we going to manage this? So this is again a biggest challenge which we are not focusing at the moment, and we have to have certain thoughts around this, because there is a recent estimate. I had gone through a research recently, so which
Mhm.
says that by end of 2050 there will
Mhm.
be approximately 80 million metric tons of solar panels that will come as a disposed waste. Okay, so 80 million metric tons at the end of 2050. So this we are talking only about the solar panels, and
Yeah,
similarly, and so
and that
the
too. Sorry to interrupt. And that too without any liability. Who our present day emission reduction purchase agreement doesn't liable the project developer to scientifically recycle it or dispose it. The state
correct.
or SECI on behalf of the state is giving that commitment, and we are very happy we are getting our solar power at 2 rupees. Without understanding, we are again gone back into the same loop of not internalizing the overall environmental cost and social cost of making our topsoil degraded by putting the solar panel on, not giving responsibility how that solar panel at the end of the life will be get recycled or disposed.
Absolutely,
Yes.
very
Yeah.
correct, very correctly said. And this is not an isolated case when we talk about the wind energy system also. So what is happening with the wind blades? This is
Yeah.
again another problem, because I mean a massive kind of structure. So how are you going to dispose these kind of things? So
Mhm.
this is something we talk about installing a lot of wind farms in the country, and fortunately, if you look at the numbers, Gujarat is blessed with the maximum number of wind farms in the country, and that contributes to the major production.
Yeah.
So after the end of life, so these are all becoming, bottlenecks in terms of pollution. So we'll try to address the energy crisis at the moment, but
Mhm.
later, for a period of time, maybe after 1 or 2 decades, we'll end up having to face this kind of pollution-related stuff. So this is another point which I would highlight in this
Yeah,
forum.
that's a great point, because every time we are just reacting with our problem and taking it a tailpipe solution kind of thing, not proactive with the development. Uh,
Absolutely,
yeah, and
absolutely.
just to highlight that same thing, and like to get back to Mr. Panigrahi, who represents same crop. You were one of the major investment arms in Indian decarbonization, particularly renewable development, both on the renewable as well as the storage. That Uh, one side on the renewable, as Dr. Abhilash has highlighted, that we have not able to address the circularity of aspects of the material being get used. On the storage side, we may not able to address the sustainability of the supply chain issues, because we are dependent on technologies, or a lot of our policies are dependent on technology per se, not output say. So that has not given a proper incentive to develop another competitive technologies to come in, which may address recyclability aspects of the technology, like cobalt concentration in cathode of lithium batteries is so low, it is commercially near about impossible to make it viable to extract, and that's a heavy metal. Whereas there are other technologies which may have the potential to address it. Why such always knee-jerk reaction within our country, considering we have the greatest resource of our market with us? Other countries is looking to us for a area to do business, and we have that strength. Why not utilize it?
So, basically, so I fully agree with you on this aspect. So, on so far as storage is concerned, so right now, though we want to uh, adopt storage at a very fast pace, really, we do not have the material source for that within our country. We do not have the manufacturing base, the
Yeah.
technology to make it in a very cost competitive way. And then also then after the, so like uh, Dr. Avilas was talking about the how to disposal of solar panels. Also,
Yeah.
will have the same question of disposal of huge quantity of batteries. And also in case of battery, because everyone will use small player, large players, how to hold everyone responsible. And a battery is something that will keep moving,
Yeah.
except for those that grid support battery system. The batteries in the electric mobility and many others, they will be fully mobile.
Mhm.
So how to track those batteries and how to hold people responsible for them. So these are the areas that we must work on. And both, like for both on storage and both on hydrogen.
Mhm.
So actually, I would say that it is a great opportunity for India,
Mhm.
because unlike say solar photovoltaic, where many technologies have matured and they have been advanced, and they have been deployed at a very large scale, very large players elsewhere in the world.
Yeah.
These are the two areas where actually globally there is no scale, nobody owns a matured technology that cannot be beaten.
Mhm.
So we should focus our both our research and development and our business innovation
Mhm.
to really uh, take a lead in
Mhm.
making so developing technology, and first technology,
Mhm.
then the manufacturing processes, and the entire ecosystem around it. So this is an opportunity waiting for us.
Thank you, Mr. Panigrai. Dr. Karan, now we have talked about lot of technologies relate to centralized sector. What about the recent push on biofuel? If we talk about particularly on the transportation sector, though transportation one segment depends on electrification, electric mobility, that has a lot of positives and negatives, because our electric end use electrification in transportation always depends on personal mobility, whereas the model shift has not been addressed that profoundly. But the biofuel sector, India is doing pretty well. Comparatively, started very late in comparison to Brazil or US. We are now one of the first 4 5 countries in the utilization of ethanol. Biodiesel is comparatively a low interest at this moment at both an industry as well as policy level, but that has an opportunity. Also, the CBG sector, particularly when Rambabu has talked about that 13 technology under Article 6.2 being addressed, CBG is one of them. Uh, and this all sector doesn't require a very rocket technology to be imported from somewhere in the Western lab, and this technology has very good going to address the circularity, rural development, equity aspects very well. What is your take on this biofuel sector getting pushed in last few years? And we have seen in the last budget also, or previous budget also, there is a substantial allocation. But on the other hand, even in the, if you talk about the SATAST scheme for biogas, the LOI has been issued for 4,000, 4,500 plant to be set up, and only 40, 50, max 50 probably has been commissioned. So there is a some problem associated with it. If you have any ideas how to, what are the problems, how to address it?
Uh, Thank you for that question. It's a very important question with respect to decarbonization of the economy.
Mhm.
I'll just try to collect my thoughts because this will be the answer will have multiple parts to it.
Yeah.
Uh, what I understand is, uh, even if biofuels reach their highest potential,
Mhm.
they will not be replacing any part of the of the energy sector. They'll always form a small part of our energy sector.
Mhm.
Uh, the another issue is we unless the government comes in with some policy. I mean, even if you look with ethanol, when
Mhm.
blending started in the petrol,
Mhm.
only after that we have started to talk about biofuels and blending,
Mhm.
blended fuels, and all these new all the things related to biofuels have come into the picture.
Yeah.
And this was only because of the government push.
Yeah.
No petrol manufacturer, no oil manufacturer started doing this on their own accord.
Yeah.
So this push has to come from the government. The uh, other issue that I want to talk about related to alternate energies is all these things require a lot of capital.
Mhm.
We still have a GDP of $2,000. We the China has a GDP per capita GDP of 20,000. US is at 72,000.
Mhm.
So what I feel is at this point of time we really need to look at our energy security.
Mhm.
And in this journey of energy security, if we are able to add certain different dimensions to this and energy security with the help of biofuels or some alternate technologies which will help us in reaching this energy security, only then these type of alternate fuels will reach their highest potential. So for that, I feel the government push is important because at the end of the day, everything boils down to profitability. If the people feel, if the businesses feel that making these type of alternate fuels is profitable, only then it will get a push. Same with the renewable. Until the solar energy rates, until the wind energy rates were not what they are, what we see today, they did not get that kind of push. I think it was in the range of some $78. Now it has come into cents,
Mhm.
the per capita per kilowatt cost. So
Mhm.
same type of thing, stability, reliability, and government support are the three things which will be required for the field for all these biofuels to become mainstream. And once they are in the mainstream, they will need again the government resolutions that they will be supported in the future and what kind of future they will have. So what I see is that government needs to decide in which direction they want to take this discussion with regards to biofuels. Thank you.
Okay. So, just my last query to Mr. Panigrahi, how you look carbon market, not or carbon pricing, not even from the point of view just carbon credit and its pricing, but various mechanism associated with carbon pricing, like tax, like we have seen CBAM coming up. We have seen ESG score getting improved by carbon footprint that has a indirect pricing model. Um, is it going to really internalize the environment into the business in pretty soon, maybe in coming 2 years it will be a part of regular investment analytics?
So, so is some parts of is already making its way into investment analysis,
Yeah.
and in some parts it is creating also opportunities. For
Yeah.
example, the
Mhm.
CBAM. So CBAM. One, because so on that we are at a very sweet spot, in the sense that now we want to expand our manufacturing base substantially.
Mhm.
So those steel sector etc already established there, we are also trying to expand in other areas as well,
Mhm.
our manufacturing base.
Okay.
Now and at this is now that CBAM is just around the corner,
Mhm.
and and uh, and maybe other countries also other geographies also follow suit. So
Mhm.
now, so it will get into the investment decision of or the business plan of the manufacturers, and that will indirectly flow into the business plan of renewable generators.
Yes.
Yeah, so that linkages are getting established. I think on CBAM we'll see the faster impact,
Mhm.
whereas carbon credit market, it is already people are already factoring in, but right now there is a lot of risk associated with it. If so if some of the uncertainties are taken away and
Mhm.
there is greater certainty, so a appropriate it will be factored at an appropriate
Derivative
level.
market, yeah, derivative market can generate out of it.
Yeah, at an appropriate level. Now it is getting factored into, but
Yeah.
because that long term market is not there, derivative market is not there, the
Yeah.
market is not deep, the volume certainty is not there, so people are
Mhm.
definitely any investor will take a very conservative approach. They will
Mhm.
assign a value, but they will assign a value much way below the actual potential. So for the full
This,
potential to
yeah.
be realized, the
Mhm.
market has to deepen, the market has to be standardized, the market has to be become more reliable.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry that Mr. Ajay is not able to join back. We are missing him. Shakshi, is there any queries which come up to for our address?
We do have a lot of comments here. I'll
Mhm.
just screen those. Surprisingly, we have a lot of comments, but we do not have any questions as such. So we would request Ms. Samra to ask all our panel speakers for their closing remarks.
Okay. Okay, and Dr. Raghavan, we are at the end of this discussion. I want to hear from you your closing remarks. What do you think the three most important thing from a government side which they must act on or further develop on?
All right, great. Thank you, Samrat. And it's really a very fantastic discussion. And thank you for all this panel inputs and all. So on the government front, since we are more talking about, my company is working closely on executing some of the prestigious green hydrogen project in the country.
Yeah. Yep.
So for that matter, so I think we are currently, into the initial stages of, the discussions and all. And when it comes to the support or in terms of the regulatory thing, so what I see is that though we have different kind of clearance process uh, and all those kind of things available, but when it comes to the policy or as a regulatory framework, so still the emphasis on the green hydrogen to prioritize the execution of green hydrogen projects. So for those, so what are the kind of things which government can support as a catalyst to, to speed the process? So this is still in a very nascent stage because we face still a lot of challenge because when we go and approach the green ammonia committee, so for the EC clearances and all, so there are a school of thoughts which says that okay, green ammonia falls into the 17 category industry, so you need to be in a category A. So there are a lot of confusion around that. But though the government has announced a lot of, fast track clearance process, but this is yet to be implemented in the full swing. So this is one thing which I would say. And again, from the current incentive point of view, so this is primarily focused on the supply side. So I think this is something which is mostly focused towards the supply end. And the another challenge which we have seen is the support in terms of offtake agreements. Right. So because of this offtake agreements also, if there are certain kind of support and guidance which are coming from the government, that also will add a lot of values. So when I say that, one of the things which probably government could influence is on the green hydrogen consumption obligation. So which everyone is talking at the moment, like GHCO. So which is similar to the RPO, no? The renewable purchase obligations,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
are primarily for the fertilizers and the petroleum industry and all. So if similar kind of a system, if it is implemented, I think we'll have an increased speed in terms of getting into a closure, no, of offtake agreements and all such sort of things. So these are some things which immediately came to my mind, and I hope since we are in a beginning stage, so there are still a lot of things to happen in this front, and government is giving all the support and all, but still there is a little more scope of improvements and more
Yeah.
kind of support involved in that to make the projects more
Yeah.
viable and bankable. So that's my final comments.
Yeah, thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Maybe capacity building at all stakeholders level will meet those goal quickly because it's everybody. Everything is new, so people are grappling with the facts what need to be done.
Absolutely correct. Thank you.
Uh, Mr. Panigrahi, coming back to you from purely on same crops point of view, what you think the three most important aspects at industry as well as from the establishment side should facilitate to much quicker adoption
Yeah.
because
I may not be able to tell from Semcrop's side. I will on
yeah
personally.
your
I feel that
yeah your view.
The government's intent is good. Intent is good, and there we can see resolve in the on the part of government to accelerate our journey towards net zero. But now on so for example, now we are trying to establish the domestic market. So now the carbon market. Now the issue is that we have also we have had earlier REC, and but the market has not been a very deep and uh, strong market.
Mm-hmm.
So there should be very clear steps, so and clear measurement and enforcement, so that the market becomes really deep and robust, so that apart from the international carbon market, there is a
Yeah.
robust market inside India as well.
Yeah.
And also for green hydrogen and similar new technologies, where the technology is not yet mature, and everything is moving at a evolving at a very fast pace. So there actually government support, initially the government support will be required, so that the technology gets developed and investors are able to make capital commitment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Panigrai, and I like your market development aspects very well, because possibly that's the only way where we can internalize this development in towards the very core sector of the economy, rather than making it a cross subsidy kind of a game through government control. Um, I want to catch Dr. Karan for your last comment, particularly on this market development aspects. I just taken a couple of steps behind to see that India has sufficiently developed good uh, dairy, eh, particularly efficiency derivative market in forms of the PAT scheme, in forms of a REC scheme. The scheme technically was robust, but where it was lacking is the enforcement of the scheme. People who do not commit to the scheme, there is penalty mechanism been derived. There is no enforcement of penalties or penalization, and vice versa, awarding to the performance. So, how do you think the present ICM development, Indian carbon market development, which is more or less a cut copy paste of the earlier PAT scheme, or presently, which is still going on, the PAT scheme, what little bit extra government should think of to develop the regulations and enforcement in such a way that the thriving market can take place, where it will discover its own price automatically.
Right. So, from an Indian business point of view, this becomes very important. Till now, we have been just concentrating on profit and loss statements of the company has been just concentrating on profit and
Yeah,
loss.
yeah.
We have just dependent on the financial data of a company in order to make investment decisions. Now, with the introduction of ESG in the form of BRSR in India, we are now started concentrating on the non-financial data. The company just does not have to face the financial risk, it has to also face different types of risk. So there are two categories of risk now that the company is facing. One is the physical risk, and the second one is the transition risk. The transition risk again consists of reputational risk, technological risk, operational liability risk, and regulatory risk. So
Yeah.
when I talk about regulatory risk, here our point of Indian carbon markets come into picture. With the introduction of BRSR, now there's another aspect to the BRSR report, which is called as the BRSR core report, in which phase-wise the top 1,000 companies will have to get
Yeah.
assurances on parts of the report
Mhm.
from third-party auditors, and this will be, of course, rolled out into different phases. But when the company they have to get the assurance from third party will be coming in checking the scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 GHG emissions. at that point of time, it will be very important for them to show that how they are dealing with their excess carbon emissions. So a part of the carbon emissions will be abated, right? They will have some technological changes. They will have green buildings. They'll have efficiency measures in place. But the last 10-20% of the hard to abate or impossible to abate emissions, that emission they will have to buy carbon credits for that. And again, there are some sectors for which they'll have to buy the carbon credits, because in the short term, having that kind of investment in India will not be possible for them,
Yeah.
bringing in those technologies.
Mhm.
So I see that once all these different CBAM and BRSR core, all these different new NFD regulatory measures that are coming into the picture are
Mhm.
enforced 100%, then you will see the sort of prices, the sort of standardization, the sort of government regulations that we are seeing in EU ETS right now come into
Yeah.
India. And then we'll see that the carbon market is regulated and the carbon prices, just as we're saying, they're somewhere in the range of 82 pounds and 82 euros in Europe.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
the same kind of, probably not the same kind of rate, but to a certain extent, the which justifies carbon rates in the Indian context, the same way
Mhm.
we will start seeing them in India. And then we'll have a very mature economy which will encompass the non-financial data along with the financial data. So this forms sort of support structure for the financial data. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Karan. So, thank you all our panelists to spare their valuable time and their thoughts on this important aspects. Though everybody is talking about it, but we want to address some macro issues which are pertinent for our overall country's development towards what we called a developed economy by next 25 years, but decoupling the development and emission. Okay, thanks. Thanks. Hope you'll have a nice part of the day, and we'll come back soon for further interaction with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Sengupta. Thanks, Sakshi.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. A big thanks to our panelists for such a wonderful session. A very special mention, of course, to Mr. Sengupta for superbly moderating the session. We are also grateful to our attendees for extending their valuable time for the event. And of course, a special mention to our partner Enking for their immense support to organize this event. We promise to be back with more exciting sessions soon. The floor is now open for networking. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.